Okay. Right, so we're coming towards the end of this section, right? You gentlemen have another section coming up on this next page.
We have non-test.
And then there's a new section, right?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I have also. Okay, but before we start on the new section, or actually, whatever. So he says in this section, in the end of number 58, Nun Ches, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right, that's where we're up to, right? We finished. Right? The last thing we did was that he explained to us how HaKadosh Baruch Hu is kind of the Mokim, right? And he explained to us how Hashem put himself into a position, into a mode where his kovod is dependent on his creations, and he put himself into a mode that he gets kind of simcha from his creations. Okay? And then he says, okay, now we explained, what is enough for this matter. And then he says, and then the Neshama responds in Nun Tes.
Oh, good.
Right, in 59, the Neshama responds, Binyan hazeh kvar yishavtani yishuv gomer. With regards to this matter, you've explained to me, everything that needs to be explained, a complete explanation. Ata, now, hayisi chafetz lehavin metzias ha'odam. Now I want to understand the nature of mankind. Right? And this is, according to my understanding, is what you really need to know well, to understand well. Because understanding mankind, you understand all of the other things, because in the end, the burden of avoida is on mankind, so you got to understand mankind. That's what the neshama is saying, right? So clearly, this is a completely new section that begins, right? And then, so the seichel responds, Omar, seichel hine tzedakta b'dvarayich. You are correct in your words. Ha'odam hu ha'kavona tachlitit. The man, or the person, the human, is the ultimate kavana. B'chol masav is baruch shmoi, in everything that he does. Al kain, therefore, rak mishayovenas zois, al buryov, only someone who understands this clearly, yoda toichiyois kol hakoidem elov. Then he understands the inner workings of anything that comes before him. Right? Meaning the rest of creation, which precedes the creation of Adam, can only be understood through the lens of Adam. Because the end of it all, everything else that's created was created for the sake of man. So therefore, if you understand man, you understand everything else. If you don't understand man, you don't understand anything. Okay? So, right? That's where he's going right now. But before we continue, I just want to turn back. Just make sure make sure we're keeping the score, because for some reason, I don't know, something doesn't, I feel like I'm close to getting the structure, but I don't fully feel like I get the structure, so let's see if we just remind ourselves. Mm-hmm. So, okay, so the first section, let's say let's even begin, let's just go for the very beginning and just remind ourselves, what's the project, right? What's the project of Daas Tevunos? What's the project of Daas Tevunos? The project of Daas Tevunos is that the neshama says there are 13 midos of emunah, right? And there are certain of those midos the neshama does not understand, right? And particularly 4. What were the 4 that the neshama does not understand? Mm-hmm. So the 4 are hashgacha, how Hashem guides the world, schar v'oinish, reward and punishment, Bias HaMashiach, the coming of Mashiach, and Tchias HaMeisim. So those were the four that the neshama wanted to understand. Okay, so that's the project. Okay, that's the project. Okay, so in the end of the day, we need to know if he accomplished this project, right? Hashgacha, Schar v'Oinash, Bias HaMashiach, and Tchias HaMeisim. Right? Again, we discussed that Hashgacha and Schar v'Oinash seem to be referring to the present day, and Bias HaMashiach with Tchias HaMeisim is referring to the future, right? Which parallels what we've been talking about two things now, right? There's Schar v'Oinash, he says that's the Hanhogas HaMishpat, right? That today we live in the period of Hanhogas HaMishpat, where Hashem is judging the world, right? So which is Schar v'Oinash. And in the future, is Tikkun HaKlali, which is, I guess, Bias HaMashiach and Tchias HaMeisim, right? Okay, so that's that. Then, as an introduction, right, with all of that, he set up this whole system of how everything is connected, tolui in Gilu Yechudai, that everything in the creation is dependent on Hashem's oneness, right? Because this unique midah of oneness is the only midah that we can fully connect with, and that's the midah that can hide and the midah can get revealed. Then he set up that whole beautiful system, which I think we more or less understood. Then we get to kind of the second half of 44, Mem Dalet. I'm not sure. You have numbered? You have numbered?
Yeah.
So we get
That's
to
the long one, right?
No.
44 Mem Dalet.
No.
The next one's the long one.
I think Mem was the long one. And we get to Mem Dalet is after the long one. Right after he set up that whole system and the whole introduction.
Yeah.
So Mem Dal, I don't know what page you have. You have it?
Yeah.
It's like, so this is the second half of Mem Dal. It says V'anachnu adata dibarnu b'chlal. Right? And until now we've spoken generally. U'me'ata tzarich levoy laprotim. And from now on, further on, we have to go into the details. Ki hinei samnu yisoid echad. Now we've laid out a single foundation, should call in Yoneh Habriya, that all of the aspects of creation and all its laws are all dependent on Hashem's revealing His oneness. Now, regarding this whole enterprise, we find two times. One time is when Hashem is hidden, and in the future when He's going to be revealed. And the second time is after He'll be revealed. Okay? It's interesting just to point out that he calls the first time Hashem is hidden and Osid Lehisgalis, and He is to be revealed. Meaning, I would have just said the present time is Hashem is hidden, right? And Vasheni is Achar Shen Isgalis, after He's revealed. But he calls the present time Beyoyser Nister V'Osid Lehisgalis. Sounds like, to me, like, because what he's going to say later, that even during this time of Nister, there is not a moment where the Gilui process is not active, right? B'yoyser Nister v'Osid Lehisgalos is this time, because even during the hidden time, the Gilui is working over time, so to speak, to be Megala.
Right, time is running.
Right. U'be'ela shnei azmanim, and so with regarding these two times, Re'inu heyois toloi avoida sa'odam v'kibul schorei. This is when when a person's service and his ability to receive reward takes place. Right? So avoida happens in the first time. In this first, right? I mean, avoida sa'odam is in the first time, v'kibul schorei is in the second time. Right? The work is in the first time and the reward in the second time. So therefore we have to understand in each one of these times every detail that we can understand regarding it. So we have to separately understand Hashem's the time of Hashem's hiding His oneness, and the details of Hashem's revealing His oneness separately. So that's two, right? So we have to look at two separate time periods, the period of hiddenness and the period of revelation. But then he says, and then but we also have to understand how these two times are interrelated to each other. Since you have to pass from one time to another time, there has to be a place where they connect. Which is like the passageway between the two extremes. Right? Now, what we understand, we know now that this passageway that he's talking about is this thing that from within the hiddenness, right, and from within the evil, the revelation comes, right? It's not that there is this time period and there's the next time period, but rather from this time period, the next time period kind of is born, right? The next time period is born from this time period.
Right. So the second started off in the first.
Right. The second started off.
Will be in full revelation, full bloom.
Right. It's what he calls toich, right? So the third thing here is the kernel, the seed that germinates from within the evil, right? Good. Fine. So what I'm saying is, okay, so that's what he's doing now. That's what we did until now. From here, from this paragraph until Nuntes, is what he explained these two times, these two zman, what he called these two zman, these two zmanim. Okay, so again, I don't know how much to go into, but okay, fine, these two zmanim. But then we saw last time that, again, just like, and I'm not sure if they're supposed to click or they're not supposed to click. I'm not sure. This is where I need your input. So just like, again, in the two times, he said there's time A and time B, and then there is the bridge in between the two times, right? He also told us here that in every action that Hashem does, there is the revealed action, right? And then there is the hidden, I don't know what to call it, hidden agenda, but the hidden motive or the hidden structure. And then he said that there's a third thing, right? How do you say it? This was kind of towards the end. This was towards the end of Nun Vav, I believe. There was a third thing that he said that everything, even the Tovara, right? Even the Tovara still has to have its origin and its purpose in the Shleimus, right? Everything has to have its root in the Shleimus, right? And that's what he said was the third thing. Right? That's what he said. He says, I'm just reading here. So it has to be that from perfection itself that these actions emanate. So even during the time of the Halem, right, the hiding of the oneness, these things have to emanate from perfection itself. And in the end, the fruit of the shleimus will be to return everything towards him. So again, this is the third thing. This is the third thing that you need to understand from Hashem's midos. Is how this midah emanates from the power of his perfection. And again, he says, and it's like an intermediary between the shleimus ubein hamida lefi inyan. lefi ischalef inyan mida, and it changes with regards to the mida. Ki lefi inyan kach im ispaelas min hashleimus. So in other words, Hashem provides the electricity, right, from the perfection, but the midah takes that electricity and then expresses itself in its own form.
And he sends different voltage to each one of these bulbs.
Well, I'm not sure. He sends unlimited voltage, and the midah takes the amount of voltage that it needs in order to express itself in its way. And you have to understand also how this intermediary works, right, and how it's accomplished. Like, and he says we'll explain further on. Where that further on, I'm not sure. Okay, right? Again, so what do we have? So I'm just wondering again. So he told us in the beginning that there are two times, and then there's a bridge between the two times, and now he's telling us also there are in every action there are two. What's the word again? There are two forces, elements. I don't know, whatever you want to call them, and then there's a bridge between them. So it seems very similar, right?
Yeah.
Certainly, this seems very similar. It's almost identical. The structure seems identical. But I don't really have, what's the word? What don't I have? I don't have like a real logical framework to connect the two. It seems that not too coincidental and perfectly mapping that it's not. But I don't really have the words right now to explain how both of these map onto each other. The two times with the bridge and the two actions with the bridge. Something's, okay. That's all I wanted to point out. Okay, but that's where we are. So again, just the structure is we saw what the neshama wants to know, right? The four aspects of Emunah, right? The four elements of Emunah, right? We saw how he introduced the big introduction of Yichud. Now we saw how he introduced the two time periods, right? And now he's going to talk about Avodah, basically, right? He haven't spoken much about Avodah. It's just that the Avodah exists, but he's going to before telling us what the Avodah is about. Now he just told us, I need to tell you what humankind is about, and that's where we up to. Okay, so now back to our train station, right? So now we're up to Samach Aleph. So in 61, Omra Neshama, so Neshama responds, right? Avkan Yelonu Lidroish Harbe Me'oid. That if we're going to talk, with regards to mankind and how it relates to the entire creation, obviously we're going to have to talk a lot about this. So Omar Seichel al Shloish Dvarim Sichino L'Daber. We have to speak about three categories. Al Mitziyus Shel Ha'odam. First, the nature of mankind. Al Masav, also his actions. Vel Pri Masav, and then the consequences of his actions. Right? So again, keep that in mind. So there are three things that we got to talk about. The nature of mankind, his actions, and the consequences of his actions. Amra Neshama, so Neshama says, in Kein Hadrushu Rachav B'Yoser, then it will be too much to talk about it, basically. Omar Seichel, I will reish mili noimar. Don't worry, we'll just say the heads, the what's the word? The main points. Ve'idach pirusha naniach lechacham. But the rest of the explanation will leave to a wise person. Ve'yachkamoid, and he will become even wiser on his own. So Amar Neshama daber dvaracha. So okay, speak your words. Again, what I just to get logistical point. I don't understand how these numbers came about. I don't know if the Ramchal numbered these numbers, if the later they were numbered. I don't know, for example, why this conversation, every little seemingly unnecessary point between the neshama and the seichel is numbered separately into these little numbers, and then you'll have something like mem, which will go for pages and pages, as to one number. So I don't know if there's, my hunch is that this is not coincidental. My hunch is that there's probably a reason why he structured it that way, and specifically wanted it that way. But do I understand it? No, I don't understand it. Okay. So now let's move. Next he thinks, he says, Omar Seichel, so Samach Vav in 66, Omar Seichel. So Seichel says, Kan tzrichim levoy el inyan tchias amesim. But now we need to come to the idea of tchias amesim. Where did that come from? I have no idea. He just told me, I have to explain to you the nature of mankind, the actions of mankind, and the consequences of his actions. And all of a sudden, he goes fast forward to Tchias HaMeisim.
But here I think they allude in the commentary that that's the result of his fruits. That's the ultimate.
Okay, possibly. We certainly believe, right, without any doubt. So Omra Neshama responds, oh, isn't it what was one of those things that I wanted you to actually explain to me in the first place, right? Because I want to understand the inner workings of these things, right? So it's interesting. So it's not that, how should I say, he brings up Tchias HaMeisim because he's looking to respond to the original query of the Neshama. He's saying that in order to understand humankind, you have to understand Tchias HaMeisim, and coincidentally, it happens to be the Neshama says, "Oh, that's really," which is good because I wanted to know that thing in the first, as well, right? So in other words, we're not really addressing directly. I mean, obviously, that's the idea, to directly address the question. But I'm just saying that the consequence of bringing Tchias HaMeisim, right, is not. Or it's not the concept. The sequence of Tchias HaMeisim in this setup was not to go back to the beginning, but to discuss this intermediate stop, so to speak. And it happens to be that the intermediate stop helps us to understand the final stop. But again, so you say, oh, it must be from the commentaries that's what's the word? The fruits of his actions.
Yeah.
I'm not convinced. Not that I'm not convinced. It probably is, but I'm just saying, even if it is fruits of his actions, why is that forcing the Ramchal to bring this now? Like, I'm just not getting it. But let's see. So we'll just keep in mind the question. As you're going to answer it, maybe it will become clear, right? But something, meaning before he moves on, he needs to tell us about Tchias HaMeisim. So let's see. Omar HaSeichel. So Samach Ches. Omar HaSeichel. Hine inyan Tchias HaMeisim bekitzur ubechlal poshuthu. Now the idea of Tchias HaMeisim in short and in general is very simple. Okay, stop. Is it very simple? Let's see. What's the idea of Tchias HaMeisim? What's the idea of Tchias HaMeisim? Anybody wants to throw out? This is so simple. So simple.
Neshamas come back into this world with a body.
Okay.
I mean, it's not simple.
Well, I mean, it could be. I mean, fairly simple in terms of why does it have to exist? Do we have to have Tchias HaMeisim? So you're saying because it's understood that the body has to return.
I mean, I guess, and it's a different body. It's a purified body. It has free of all those.
Okay, so Tchias HaMeisim is for the body in your opinion, right? That's what you're saying. That's the simplicity of it.
That's like more of a symbol that the physicality of this world has been raised to a spiritual level.
Okay.
So now the both could exist together.
What you were able to hear?
Yeah. No, I think it's. I think that one is purely based on belief. This one. Everything else, logic. This one is.
So you're saying that it's not. So okay. So I think Ramchal is going to disagree with you, boy. I think Ramchal because is going to say I think he's going to say what Sasha is going to say.
Right.
But because Sasha has already been a little bit what's the word, trained in Ramchalian speak. Okay, but let's see. When Hashem created human being as a body and a neshama to serve and to masa and to carry, shneim ke'echad, both of them together as one, as kol avodas hakodesh, to do the entire holy avodah, haTorah ve'amitzvah, the Torah and the mitzvah, asher nosan lahem, that he gave to them, hinei ro'ui hu shegam bekabolas haschar hanitzchi yachdav yiyu. So it's appropriate that in the when they receive the reward, eternal reward, they should also be together. Kilo yitochen, because it's not right. Sheyeh aguf omel v'lo eloi, that the body should work and not for itself. Okay, v'arei ein HaKadosh Baruch Hu mekapech schar kol beria. HaKadosh Baruch Hu does not withhold of any, the reward of any creation. Okay, so that's exactly what Sasha said, right? That the body needs to have some sort of some sort of reward.
Yeah, but didn't we discuss before, like, see, neshama is eternal, but body is not. So, like we were talking before, like, resurrection of dead, like, we don't know how it's gonna work. We know it's gonna happen, but really we don't understand. Like, probably we were talking, if we think it's gonna be the same body as before, I'm not sure. So,
Well, definitely, it's not. Meaning, it's clear that it's same enough to be considered the same, but different enough to be completely different. To be completely transformed. So I don't know. You're right. I don't know. Meaning, in terms of the logistics of it, I don't know if we can fully understand, but just in terms of why the concept exists, that's what the Ramchal is saying, that the body has to have a play. The body has to have a play in the second time period, not only in the first time period. Again, not everybody agrees with this, right? The Rambam supposedly does not agree with this. The Rambam supposedly says that there is no body in Olam Haba. So, according to the Rambam, perhaps Tchias HaMeisim then serves a different purpose, right? The Rambam certainly believed in Tchias HaMeisim because he put it into one of his 13 principles of faith, right? So, we're using the Rambam's 13 principles of faith kind of against them. Okay, anyways, so let's see. Aval mashet tzorech lehizboinen hu al prote hachibur hazeh shel guf v'neshama. So what we need to understand, however, is the details of the combination of this chibur, of this fusion of body and soul. B'hischabram, b'hipardam, when they are together, and when they are separated, u'b'shuvam li'hischaber chibur gomer, and when they return to be united again in complete unity. Okay, so it sounds to me, again, going back to what the Ramchal is trying to say, not so much what you mentioned from the commentary, right? That he's talking about the rewards of his fruit. He's using Tchias HaMeisim as a way to actually understand what is the nature of mankind. Meaning, since the nature of mankind is the fusion of body and soul, so the best way for us to understand the fusion of body and soul is in these three stages of when they are together, when they are separated, and when they're fused back together in a more complete way. Ki hein kol eile yifal second ki hein kol eile yifal el im kol adam, because all of these three ways Hashem does for each person, and certainly it's not for naught. So there, in order to fully understand what it sounds to me, in order to fully understand the nature of man, you have to fully understand these three stages of man's existence, right? When body and soul are together in this incomplete form, when body and soul are separated, and when the body and soul are later reunited. Okay, so let's see. Omra Neshama, so Neshama responds, Vaday dover zet tzarech bir, certainly this needs explanation. Mazois also lekim guf v'neshama b'shtei yitziros. V'lo yitzira achas. Certainly this is what really needs to be understood, is why Hashem created a body and soul with two formations, and not in one single formation. Sheyiyah ha'odam mitzias achas, that a person should be one entity. And it should not be a murkav. Murkav means like a graft of these two divergent elements. certainly Hashem, was not unable to create some kind of an entity that was one living entity of, a physio-spiritual, I don't know what you call it, some kind of a living entity that was not a body and soul, two separate things. However, I think once if we are answer this question, then it will be a perfect segue for us to enter into other details.
Does Adam Rishon have anything to do with this?
Right. Well, Adam Rishon is Adam, right? He's just the original prototype, right?
Right.
So, but what his question is.
No, I'm saying are the chet and the formation of the body the way it is now versus the
right, that we have to be separated. Yeah, for sure. But what I'm just saying is that how should I say it? I mean, I didn't. If you read Samach Ches, right, without Neshama's response, would you have picked up on the Neshama's question in the original formation? Meaning, the Ramchal told us that there are three stages of mankind, right? Let's call it the half fusion, the separation, and the complete fusion, right? And the Neshama responds, "You're right. That's what we really understand. Why did Hashem make a human being in a body and soul?" So that wasn't as clear, right? So Neshama picks up on this question in the words of the Seichel. That the whole concept of separation and Tchias HaMeisim only exists because there are two separate parts.
There is what to reunite.
Right. But none of this is necessary. Why do you create this problem that then needs to have a solution? Avoid the problem to begin with, right?
But he going for something revealed and hidden, something like that.
Oh, very good, right? Very good. I think so too, right? So again, we're coming back to the same pattern that we're seeing already 2 times at least, right? That there is going to be a revealed portion and a hidden portion, and then again, and some kind of a bridge between the two portions, right? Again, you're right. I mean, again, we're seeing another map, we're seeing another pattern, but like, what's exactly the connection? I'm still not feeling it. Okay, all right. So let's see 70. Omar Seichel Hakavono Ha'elyoina Halo Shamat Kvar Heyois Ach LeHeitev LeOdam. So you know that the true intent is that you already heard, that Hashem wants to benefit, bestow goodness upon man. Lizakois b'masav, let's say to merit through his actions, b'mashi yisakin atzmoi, in a way that he fixes himself, v'yashlim briyosoi, and he perfects his creation. V'arei kan inyan hachisoron v'ashleimus shezacharna l'mayla, and that's the idea of the chisaron, right? Something has to be lacking, v'ashleimus, and it has to be perfected, that we mentioned above. So therefore, Hashem created the body that is made from this chomer, from this thick, dark physical matter, bilti roy layer be'or kedushosoi, that is not worthy to receive light from Hashem's holiness, because of its very kind of lowly, what's the word? Mozgoy, mezeg. Okay, let's say anatomy, right? Very lowly anatomy. Ki ein levoy el shara melech, because you have no right to come to the gate of the king, right? There's a line from Megillah, ulevakir behechaloy, and to visit his inner sanctum, ela shleimei hachona, only those that are perfectly prepared. Kal v'chomer memalchus da'ara. It's like a kal v'chomer from the kingdom of the land, right? In other words, you can't come to the kingly palace dressed in rags, so certainly you can't come to the heavenly palace dressed in this dirty body. And this darkness is kind of innate. It's innate to the nature of the body. who has some bikir boy as kol atayvoi sarois sholtois boy, because it's in his nature, in his innards, is all of the desires, all of the evil desires that dominate him. And it makes him vulnerable to all of the evil situations that arise. So that's the guf. And then afterwards, secondly, also on neshama tahir, made this pure neshama, that is like fashioned from underneath the throne of glory. And he brings her down. And he breathes the neshama into this body in order to purify it and to sanctify it. And that's what we need to understand. The purpose of the neshama coming into the body is not because just to give it life during this present time. The purpose of the neshama is not to say, oh, Hashem created a body, he breathed in a soul, now there's a living human being. That's not the point, right? Again, somebody who reads the Torah plainly, right, in a simple level, will say that's what it says. It says, Hashem created the body, gave him the neshama, now you have a walking, living human being, good, and then we're done. That's the project. Not at all. Aval ikar boy hu lezakich zikuch mamish. The whole purpose of the neshama is to purify the body, right? Lehaloisei mishval madrigosai, to raise it up from its lower level, hachomris, the physical one, v'chashecha, and dark one, ela madrega elyoina, to a lofty madrega, liyois kamalach asharis, to be on the level of the ministering angels. We find this happened to Moshe Rabbeinu. He merited and he purified his physicality until he was on the level of a real malach. That all of the Jews saw how the beam of light was beaming through the skin of Moshe, the face of Moshe. Similarly, Chanoich, V'Eliyahu, Nis'alu l'shamayim b'guf mamash. They were able to go up to Shamayim with their body intact. Achar asher zikuchu es chumriyosim zikuch godol, because they were able to purify their physicality to this perfect purification. Ach haderech asher boy suchal neshama l'zakich es gufa. However, the way which the neshama is able to purify the body, haloihu b'masa mitzvah v'kiyum Torah, is through the action of the mitzvahs and through fulfilling the Torah. Kiner mitzvah Torah, the candle is the mitzvah and the Torah is light. V'kol mashihimar beliknois Torah mitzvahs, and anything that as much as the neshama is able to acquire Torah mitzvahs, mar bezikuch legufahu, it increases the purification for that body. V'zchus le'atzma, and as a result it gains merit for itself. Shehi mekayemes rotzen koina, because it fulfills the will of her creator. Okay, so, right, so what he's saying is, right, what is he saying so far? He's saying that just like, right, that since the creation of mankind was for his benefit, right, and the way to achieve maximum benefit is to make him accomplish his own perfection. Therefore, the way to do that is to create an aspect that is chaser, and then an aspect that is not chaser, perfect, and have the aspect that's perfect purify the aspect that's not perfect.
And once that's done, the non-perfect subject is purified. That's it. Yes, amazing.
Well, possibly. I'm not sure. We don't. Let's wait.
Okay.
Let's wait. So Omra Neshama. But Neshama responds, Matzana ta'elus shleimus laguf. So we see the benefit of perfecting the body, v'schus l'neshama, and the merit for the neshama, aval lo ta'elus shleimus l'neshama. But we don't see the benefit of the perfection of the neshama.
Great question.
I'm not sure. Do you understand this question?
We said that the body is there to receive the reward. Therefore, it shows up with Tzias Mason. Right? So far, the body has advantage, is being improved and purified. The neshama came down, it's only suffering. What is neshama gaining for this whole big experiment?
Is that so? Because he says the neshama is meriting
the reward.
The reward, yes, from achieving this perfection.
Yeah.
So what's the question? How do they translate the question?
How does the soul gain perfection from the connection to the body?
How does the soul gain perfection?
And then from the connection to the body.
Okay, so I don't know. So the note over here says the following. And let me read this note. This is note 121 in my version. So there is merit to neshama kasher hi mezacheches es haguf, when as it purifies the body. Al yidei zeh eina mekabelas es oiro yisbarach b'boishes ponim k'matan schino. As a result of this, it does not receive Hashem's light with embarrassment and as a gift. In other words, the neshama, by purifying the body, achieves its own merit because it accomplished something.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Aval tzorech lehavin, but we need to understand eze to'elas shel hisalus v'shleimus ruchnis hi mekabelas al yidei zeh. What kind of elevation and perfection, spiritual perfection, does it receive as a result of this? It already comes in a perfected state because it comes from Kisei HaKoved.
Yeah.
So the question, the way he understands it, is we understand how the neshama gets some sort of merit as a result of losing its boishes ponim, but it doesn't seem to be gaining any elevation because it already came in a perfected state.
Mm-hmm.
So is there some sort of an elevation, how could, it's already perfect, so how could it be more perfect, so to speak? That seems to be the question, the way he understands it. Is that the same? Do you think that's the same, that the English version that you understands it?
And let's say, how does soul gain perfection from its connection to the body? And then there's more here in the commentaries here.
Yeah, what are they saying?
The student asks why God created the soul and body as two separate entities and then combined them.
Right.
And the answer the rabbi gave, he has shown that this combination allows the body to acquire perfection, provides the soul with the merit of performing as God will. However, the student asks, how is the soul, which is the essence of a human being, gains any additional spiritual perfection from all this?
Mm-hmm.
It was already perfect in the first place.
Right. Okay. So exactly this.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Didn't this guy was created imperfect?
What was created imperfect?
Like you understand that human being was created imperfect for a purpose.
Right. So the imperfection, according to this, seems to be coming from the body.
Yeah, from working on results, soul working on a body. That's how it's fixing out the perfection. That's how it becomes perfect. The goal is to get as close to Hashem as possible. So that's the reward. Like more perfect you get.
No, but he told that he said that the neshama is already perfect because it's coming from Kisei HaKoved.
But I think
the fact that it's imperfect, that's a perfection, because that creates opportunity for working on yourself, and they're not really discussing before.
Right, but I'm just saying, so he seems to be understanding that the imperfection of the human being comes only from the body, not from the neshama.
And why is the body imperfect then?
But they are together, so...
Well, he's not seeing them as together. He's seeing them as two separate units that are brought together.
And why do you create the body imperfect? You said only for the sole benefit of providing the opportunity for reward.
Right.
So, this cannot be perfect. It has to be tiny bit imperfect. Because Hashem is the only one who is perfect.
Okay, to the degree that it could possibly be perfect, it's already perfect. See, that's what it seems to be right now. That's what he seems to be saying now. So, and he's not answering her question. Okay, let's keep going. Yeah. So Omar Seichel, Oid Nedaber Ben Zeh B'Siyad D'Shmai. We will still speak on this later on. So he's not directly yet answering what elevation does neshama accomplish as a result of purifying the body. It accomplishes.
Also, another concept like the Gehonim, the purification of souls. They have to burn for so many years. So it's nothing that's not perfect.
No, so it seems like the purification of the neshama only happens in Gehenna because it, while coming down here by trying to perfect the body, instead the body brought it down instead. So now they got to go back to Gehenna to kind of, to cleanse itself to its original state.
Okay, fine.
That's what it seems, right? Right? Again, if you ask a regular person on the street who hasn't read Ramchal, maybe they, I'm not sure if they would understand this picture, right? Maybe they would have a different picture, but this is the Ramchal's picture as it appears now. Okay, so let's see. So again, we'll still speak on this later. But let us first complete our idea. Wow. Again, listen carefully to these words. This purification, is the main function of the neshama in this world. Okay? Mm-hmm. Again, if you ask a typical person on the street, what is the main function of the neshama? Okay? So I'm not sure if they would give you this answer, right? So the answer, according to the Ramchal, is the main function of neshama in this world is to purify the body. And after this main function, it has other aspects. And this is not the place to explain these things. Okay? So, and regarding this, it says, they said in Zohar, Rabbi Chia Omer, Tochazi, come and see, Ad Shaguf Oymed Be'olam Hazeh, Hu Choser Min HaTashlum. While the body is standing in this world, it's lacking from perfection, or from reward. I'm not sure which way to translate. Le'achar Shu Tzadik, V'holach B'darkei Yosher, Umeis B'Yosher, but if a person is a tzaddik, and he goes in the ways of straightness, and he dies in his straightness, Nikra Sora B'Tashlumoy. She is called Sara in its, again, perfection or reward. Mm-hmm. So it's very weird words, but the idea is that somehow the body is called Sarah, and the neshama is called Avraham, right? And only the perfected body has this that can be called a Sarah, right? So v'hinei zeh kol pritzit kosa. That's the sum total of its actions, of its fruit, of its labor. Ilui kvoidoi shel mokom, raising the kovod of Hashem. Hamis'ala b'shleimus b'riyosov, who is elevated when his creations are perfected, right? Shakol bor lechvoidoi, because everything is created for his kovod. V'zeh kol asher yulad min hamasa atov klapei ma'ilo, and that's everything that will be kind of Yula can be brought forth from all the good in this world with regards to Shemaim. Asher al kei nikva lo ischar milmaila, based on this he gets reward above. Ki kenachas ruach she'osu lefanos baruch ken yosu lo. For the nachas ruach that a person gives to Hashem, that's the nachas ruach that he will receive in return. Okay, very poetic words, but let's just again simplify it. So what he's saying is that now that he told us before that everything that in the world, Hashem basically said, I want my honor to be tied to this world, right? To the things that are going to this world. Therefore, the more honor and nachas ruach that a person brings to Hashem, the more in return, mida keneged mida, he'll get the honor and reward from Hashem, right? So therefore, when the neshama perfects her world, right? Therefore, brings honor to Hashem, and as there is in mida keneged mida, he will bring honor to her and to the body that she perfected. Right? So far so good?
Mm-hmm,
yeah. So, right? So again, the purification is what brings the honor, right? In other words, purification is aligning with God, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's aligning the creation with God. Aligning the creation with God brings honor to God, and therefore, in return, if you align the creation to God, you get honor yourself. Okay. Right. So he brings over here, I didn't speak it out, but he brings over here, right, that Mesilas Yesharim, this is actually maybe even a couple of pages back, beautiful, he says over here that we could better understand what Mesilas Yesharim is saying in Lisaneg Hashem, because he starts out with this Mesilas Yesharim with the words, in order to understand what Avodas Hashem is, you have to understand what's the ultimate purpose, right? What does Hashem demand from you? What does Hashem obligate you? And he says, Hashem, and then he says, the person is created Lisaneg Hashem. So he's saying, so what we're really seeing is that, what does it mean? Hashem, person is created Lisaneg Hashem, person is created to bestow in Hashem's goodness. That's not the reward. That's his obligation. Because the question that Ramchal is asking in the beginning is, what is his obligation in the world? So the obligation is Lisaneg Hashem. That's not the reward.
Right. That's not
meaning
the goal.
It's both. Meaning it's both. That's what he's saying. It's really both. It's really the reward and the obligation. The reward is to be Lisaneg Hashem. How do you be Lisaneg Hashem? Because Hashem tied his kavod to you being this. He wants his happiness is kind of totally in your happiness, and your happiness is totally in his happiness. So therefore, your obligation to cling and to connect and to rejoice in God is his honor and his glory. So it's both. The reward and the obligation is really the same thing. That's the idea. Right, beautiful. Anyways, so I'm not sure how far. What time is it? It's quite late. So this piece goes on for some time.
So he goes on to Adam. Right.
Okay, we'll just start a few lines, and again we're going to stop kind of in the middle. So ach hachet goyrem. So the sin kind of interrupted this. Chetoi shel Adam Harishon, the sin of Adam Harishon, le'avar koisa misal kol habruim. To there's a poetic way to saying that the cup of death has to be drunk by all of the creations. Ve'ein mikvah, and there's no hope. Al kain loy ta'atzor koyach haneshama lasois hazikuch hazeh koydem hamisa. So therefore, it's impossible for the neshama to accomplish this purification before death. V'zeu inyan tzadikim shemeisu be'etyov shel nachash. And this is the idea of tzadikim that died through the how should I say it? Not kick, but through the bite, or I'm not sure. Through the bite of the nachash?
You said through snakes' evil counsel.
Counsel, okay. So, K'mamarim Zal, right? So, in other words, the Gemara says that there are certain tzaddikim that really shouldn't have died, but they died anyways. Meaning they were so pure, but they still couldn't completely purify because there was misa on the world. So, so the point is that after the sin of Adam Harishon, the purification process cannot be completed without dying. Right? They're not able to be perfected even with so many good deeds, without the process of dying. However, after the body is restored back to its earth, to its origin, and then the evil infection that Nachash put into Chava is removed from it, legamri, completely. Oz, then, so when it's later returned and rebuilt, Teirid bo neshama b'chol toikef maseha toivim, v'ziv or ha'elyon shehenehenes mimenu began Eden kifi maseha. Then the neshama is able to accomplish this purification. I'm going to probably stop here, and then we'll have to delve deeper into this when next time, right? So again, just to summarize, right? So the question that we're trying to answer is, we're trying to really understand what the nature of a human being is. The question, now we understand that the human being is a fusion of two opposites, of perfect neshama and imperfect body. And the question is, why did it have to be that way? And we understand the reason why it has to be that way is because there has to be a stage of chisaron that leads to the stage of perfection. And so the way Hashem accomplished that is by creating this perfect neshama, whose main function in this world is to achieve, to elevate, right? Again, the nature, as we'll see later, the nature of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, in this way it emanates, Hashem. The nature of Hashem, again, we right, this whole concept of HaKadosh Baruch Hu suspending, right, by Beis Koyach HaMemshala, Hashem suspending, what's the word, has all of this calculations of good and evil, and this, right, when the revelation of Yichud comes out through his Koyach of complete control, he says, seemingly suspends, right, all of this Hanhogas HaMishpat, so to speak, right? And so, similarly, the neshama is also, so because the nature of infinity is to, it's infinite. The nature of infinity is infinite. So where there is infinity, there is no place for imperfection, because any imperfection, by definition, is a blockage to infinity. In the presence of infinity, all imperfection disappears. If the neshama is kind of a chelik of elakah, right, is a part of God, so really by its very nature, it also should completely, so to speak, destroy all imperfection. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu, just like he was mitzamtzem himself in order to create the world, he was mitzamtzem the neshama in order to give it, slowly do its job of purifying the body, right? So the neshama within a person plays the same role as HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the world, and therefore, again, achieves, replays the whole concept of creation in miniature, right? And so that's why really its main expression of infiniteness, right, is through perfecting the body or perfecting any imperfection. You see imperfection, you wanna get rid of any imperfections. You see you see a problem, you want to solve it. You want to, right? That's the nature really of Avodas Hashem, is get rid of any imperfection.